A very good afternoon to all of you. Myself, Advocate Varun Kumar. I am the founder of Law Audience Journal. So today we are organizing a webinar session on generative AI revolution from chatbots to content creation. So today we have a very special guest with us, Advocate Arunima Jha. So she is a TEDx speaker, advocate, and author. She appears before the High Court of Bombay and handles commercial litigations, arbitration, and insolvency matters. With over a decade of experience across technology law, data protection, intellectual property, and commercial contracts, she writes and speaks widely on AI and emerging tech regulation. So I request Arunima ma'am, please take the stage and start with the session.
Thank you, Varun, for having me here. And let me begin by saying that I don't have a presentation prepared. This was just, we decided we'll do something where then let me start with a confession. Except, it's not mine, it's yours. So I'm sure everyone who is attending this session has already had a conversation uh, with that with a machine that just 5 years ago would have looked like pure science fiction. And whether you're writing an email, you were dreading, or you had it explained some baffling tax clause. So maybe you got it knocked out on or just a birthday poem for a colleague. And the thing is, it worked instantly, and it worked honestly, often better than we were even expecting. So here's my first point. We are not waiting for the AI revolution to arrive. We are already living inside it. And when we are living inside it, in a way, it is like a fish that lives inside water, so completely surrounded by the stuff that we have stopped noticing that it's even there. Now, if the internet was the printing press of this generation, then generative AI is the moment that printing press learned to write its own book. What I would like to do over the next 1 hour is to take you on a journey where we'll go from a humble chatbot, the way to the engines that now paint pictures, that compose music, generate film, and even sometimes, you argue a case. You must have seen AI chatbots in a US matter also, wherein the chatbot was arguing a motor vehicle case. So we'll travel from research labs in San Francisco to courtrooms in Delhi, from Hollywood writers' rooms to a film studio in Hyderabad. And the whole time we will be circling on one question: when the machine can create, what's left that's actually uniquely ours? Now hold on to that question when we'll come back to it. So before we get on to the, all that complicated, exciting stuff, let me spend a few minutes on what makes it different. And I promise I'll just keep it as painless as possible. So what do you mean by generative? Now, think about traditional software for a second. Traditional software is basically a very obedient clerk. Now you hand it some rules, and then it follows them to the letter. So if you tell the traditional software that if the salary is above this number, apply that tax slab, and it will do exactly that, and without any complaint. But it can't improvise. It will never surprise you. It only knows what you have told it because it is working on the data set that you have shared. Now, generative AI isn't the same. It's more like having an intern who would read your entire library, every book, every blog post, every argument that humanity has ever bothered to write down. And somewhere in all that reading, it picked up a deep pattern of how we actually express ourselves. So it doesn't go and fetch out answers of a filing cabinet. The intern will build it for you word by word. Think of, a musician. So when you give a musician to a certain piece of music, he would improvise the melody that has never existed before. this would still sound like music. So, think about a search engine that finds you the needle in the haystack. So, a generative AI forces you to sort of, have a brand new needle on demand in shape, whatever you describe. Now, at the heart of the tools that you have heard of, I'm sure all of us have used ChatGPT, we have used Claude, we have used Gemini, and it's something called a large language model. But if you strip away all that mystique, the core idea is almost very simple. It's embarrassingly simple. So it predicts the next word, and that's it. That's the trick. But the magic begins on the scale that changes everything. So, for example, if you give a child a few hundred sentences, they'll just pick up basic grammar. Now, one of these models will a few trillion sentences, and then it learns not just grammar, it learns the logic, the reasoning, the tone, and the subtleness behind it. So even the legal argument or a structure of a sonnet, right? It learns everything. So it's on autocomplete that went to university, picked up a dozen degrees along the way, and never once needed to sleep. So think of it that way. We'll look at some of the historic moments that have happened in the past. The real breakthrough came in 2017. Now, this is a design that let these models pay attention to every word in a sentence all at once. Think of a chess game where a grandmaster will take the whole board rather than just squinting at one piece at a time. And then the moment when it went mainstream was when ChatGPT was launched at the end of 2022. It just hit 100 million users in 2 months. Now that made it the fastest adopted technology in history, faster than telephone, faster than electricity, faster than smartphone in your pocket right now. And if I talk about closer to home, these models now hold a conversation which is in Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, Marathi. India has its own builders. Like, if I'm not sure if you have heard of Sarvam AI or something called Krutrim, if I'm pronouncing it right. So these are putting models together specifically for our linguistic chaos and the scale that India is known for. So if you are a technical crowd, I would think you would love the conversation today. If you're not, honestly, then again, how matters far less than what it can do. Let's get to the part two. Um, so see, when we talk about AI revolution, it did not just show up as in one wave. Okay, this came in three different separate swells, and each one was bigger than the last. Now let me walk you through them. So the wave one was the word. Okay. Now this is the first wave that we all know best. It's the chatbot that drafts your contract. It summarizes the 100-page judgment in about 30 seconds. It also debugs your code. It writes some marketing that copy that actually converts. And let me give you a picture of it. So around the world, there is a junior lawyer. Okay, at some global law firm who used to lose an entire weekend because he is reviewing the whole tall stack of contracts. He's hunting for one risky clause. Now, today he has that model bot that does the first passover, where he can have his breakfast at peace. And then that model also flag things, summarizes, does the cross referencing, which leaves the human to do the judging instead of hunting. And that's the shift in a nutshell. Now, if we look at India, our courts have actually started experimenting with AI translation of judgments, which is across regional languages. So if there are, and also there are tools which are piloted to make basic legal research, which is available to people who could never afford a lawyer in the first place. I've had clients who would now come to me who would tell me that I've done the research and I know these are my rights and these are certain things that I need to include in my document. I am fighting one NCLT matter wherein this is with respect to a contempt petition where my clients would come back. So my, these are home buyers and we have around 160 home buyers. So, of course, of different age and all. I have someone who's very quite senior, and he today knows insolvency better than a lot of people. Sometimes I feel that he knows it better than us as well because he has the judgments ready with him. If he wants certain things to be included in the draft, and when I'm sharing it for his review, he'll come back and say, "Hey, just look at this judgment. I think this is quite relevant. If you can have this also incorporated." So this is a quite little democracy of justice. So happening while most of us aren't looking. Now, text-based AI didn't just replace the writer; it replaced the blank page. And the most terrifying of all the white rectangles that you have seen. Um, Then came the part two, which is the wave two. Now the machine learned to see and to paint. First was the word. Now in second part, the machine is learning to paint. Now we had tools like Midjourney, we have Doll E, we have had Stable and Diffusion. So if you hand them a sentence, they will hand you back a photograph of something that has never happened. So for example, I want Mumbai street at monsoon dusk and I want the AI to have neon reflected in the puddles, some sort of a cinematic picture. So type that, and a few seconds later, there you have it, the photograph. Now, if I talk about the world, back in 2022, an AI generated image actually won a first prize at the state art fair in Colorado. Now, this did set off the furious argument about whether typing a prompt counts as a brush stroke, meaning that will I have the copyright if I'm creating something using an AI, and that that's the genie, no? And the argument have not that has not gone back in the bottle since. uh Here in India now, advertising agencies in top tier cities are now generating the whole campaigns, mood boards, shots which are booking without booking a single photo shoot. So weeks of studio work, they just collapsed into a couple of hours where you can create something, and suddenly a small brand that could never afford a film crew can now compete. The camera used to capture reality, and now your model is manufacturing it. And increasingly, we uh, fail to tell which one is genuine, which one is AI generated. So this was the wave two of AI. Then comes the wave three. Now the third wave, which is the most disorienting of the lot, was video. So now models like OpenAI or Sora or Google's Veo now can generate a photorealistic or a minute long clip, which is out of a single paragraph or of text. So you can have a dog surfing in Hawaii. You can have a historical street that really doesn't exist anymore, brought back to life and set it in motion. So around the world, how it happened was that Hollywood studios are already quietly using these for storyboards. They are de-aging actors for visual effects. They are using people who are already, you know, they are no longer with us. And that used to cost millions to them. So that and that, by the way, is exactly why it's that right in the center of the writers and the actors, which strikes a couple of years ago. So people felt the ground move. Now in India, if I talk about the film and the OTT industry, Bollywood for sure. So Now you would have seen that, the booming Telugu and the Tamil markets, they're doing pretty well. So they are also exploring AI for dubbing. They are using AI for lip sync across languages and also de-aging, which means one film can now speak natively to a dozen of different audiences at the same time. The way I put it, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a fabricated video is worth uh, 1,000 lies or 1,000 brand new stories. The tool itself is neutral. The hand holding the bot is not, right? Now, if we look at the economy, let's leave the lab now and actually walk through the economy floor by floor and see where the thing is already quietly rearranging the whole furniture. Now, I'll move quickly. If any of these is your world, then please feel free to lean in. Uh, the law and the professional services. Globally, AI platforms have now been trained to draft the first good contracts. It does summarize your mountains of discovery when you go for due diligence, when you're doing mergers and acquisitions, and even taking a stab at predicting how litigation might go. The whole profession is sliding from hours built to now judgment being delivered. And in India today, the firms and the in-house teams are now putting it to work on due diligence and on compliance tracking under the new Data Privacy Act, which is your DPDP Act, turning into what used to be an army of paralegals into a very simple, very well supervised assistant. So instead of having 10 paralegals, I can just have one AI bot with me who will do my work properly. No training required, so of course there is also a cost saving there. Now, if I talk about the media, entertainment, and advertising sector where I have had most of my time spent, newsrooms are now, at least in the abroad, are now auto-generating earning summaries the moments the results drop. There are studios prototype, which is prototype for your entire scene before a camera, ever rolls. And even in India, the regional content, if you have seen, is not just there. It is also exploding because you have an AI dubbing piece, which is dubbing one piece of content, across every single language, and then crossing the border in many market. So for a market of billion plus viewers and at 22 official languages, that is a genuine unlock, right? If I talk about healthcare, now globally, again, these models are drafting clinical notes. They're also helping doctors summarize patient histories and speed up the hunt for the new drug molecules, which is, squeezing years of research into months. And in India, an AI diagnostic or a telehealth tool are also now being piloted to push specialist expertise out in rural district. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of a company called Docure. It does use AI tool to connect health experts to their customers. So it's B2B and B2C both. Where the nearest doctor might be, let's say, 100 kilometers away. You would have seen Practo, for example. Now, where a doctor can't reach, AI makes it possible today. So you can, even if there are, even if you are not able to connect to a doctor, at least a preliminary diagnosis can be done using AI, and that's what has changed in healthcare. Now, if I talk about software and tech as an industry, now there we have AI coding assistants who can now write a real chunk of a new software. So you can actually turn the programmer into an editor of a machine written code rather than it's the only author being there. So for India's enormous IT sector, the engine which is behind millions of jobs, that is both a productivity gift, and also it does raise a very genuine question about the future of entry level work. And I won't be, I won't pretend otherwise. So you would have seen there are a lot of layoffs being done across the globe, uh, especially in the tech sector, because now those jobs, at least for the entry level, are being replaced by the bots. It's more cost effective. It's you can skip the whole training thing, and I've there is there's no concept of a break how it happens with humans. Now let's talk about education and finance, which is, in both worlds, there you have had, now you have personalized AI tutors who are adapting to each individual student. So banks are using AI to draft reports and also point out when there is a fraud and serve their customers in their own language and dialect, which is, around the clock. So generative AI isn't just a single tool that you pick up and put down. It's like electricity today, with invisible current. So the moment it arrives, it rewires every room that it enters, and that's AI for you. Um, Now in the next segment, let's talk about, um, I mean, we have just been looking at the sunrise, and I would be doing a real disservice if I only talked about the sunrise and conveniently forgot to mention the shadow that it casts. So every powerful tool is a double-edged sword. Once it's been sharpened on both sides, and let me be honest with you, there are pros and cons. Uh, so the first one and the most obvious one is the hallucination. Now, these models can sometimes lie, they can create something which is completely false with very unshakable confidence of somebody who's been very experienced. And in law, if you blindly rely upon AI for even a wrong case citation, it is not a cute little glitch that courts will look at. It's a professional catastrophe, right? So the rule is simple: supervise the machine and use it to complement your work rather than trusting it blindly. The second con of AI, which is again a very obvious one, is deep fakes. So, you would have seen synthetic videos, you would have seen synthetic voices, which can now impersonate just about anyone. India has already been seeing deepfakes of public figures, of celebrities, and also, that just also drags up some very important and urgent questions about consent, about defamation, about the integrity of even our elections, right? And the third one would be who actually owns the output. So, for example, if I've created a picture, if I've, you know, if I a model is trained on, let's say, a million different artists, okay, and it spits out a brand new image. So, who is the author? Now, if we look at the precedents and how the courts in the US or the UK or right here in India, they are dealing with this kind of question as we speak. The answer is going to reshape the entire creative economy. And the last one being, which is on everyone's mind these days, jobs. So, for a young country like India, with millions of people who are joining the workforce every single year, the fear is very real, and I'm not going to wave it away. History, but history does offer you a little comfort here. Technology tends to transform jobs more than it's simply erasing them. So, for example, we used to have typists. Now, that word today is become a processor. We don't have a typist anymore because we have laptops, we have computers, and the word processor became a knowledge worker for us, right? So the work has changed its shape. It has not vanished. But of course, you do need to keep upskilling yourself to stay relevant in the job. And on the law itself, very briefly, globally, the European Union AI Act is the world's very serious, first very serious attempt to regulate this stuff by tiers of risk. And while everybody else is studying it closely, India is, charting its own path, trying to balance the Data Privacy Act and also the evolving IT rules. And if I won't say that it's not a deliberate pro innovation stance. So the whole tightrope act is about regulating the harm without strangling the opportunity. Now, I also don't want it to sound like a monologue. So if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Anyone in the room till now? Anybody
Anyone
has any
want to
question?
ask any question, please write in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and can ask it directly from the speaker.
Ma'am, can I ask question?
Yeah, yeah, please.
My question is the technology has raised many concern as well as opportunity. So,
Hmm.
as you said, the job has been transformed. So,
Hmm.
if we are thinking about GDPR and now you said about the DPDPA of India, so
Hmm.
how DPDPA of India will create opportunity for the different stakeholders, and is there any certification program available for them?
Uh, okay, a good question. Let me begin with that. Now, see, when we talk about data privacy, okay, it applies ir irrespective of you know, sectors, irrespective of the kind of work or the customers that you're serving, right? Uh, so, for example, when we talk about B2B or B2C, right? These are two very different industries, and DPDP today isn't just a compliance. It's a business opportunity. So when I talk about the Data Protection Act, there are new obligations. There is a consent machinery. There are breach-related notifications which are inbuilt, and there are penalties. So if you default, there are serious penalties. So, here in a country where there is constant data anxiety about deep fakes, leaked databases, dubious apps which are harvesting everything in sight, being visibly or credibly careful with your personal data is no longer an option. It's so as a company, if you can plainly tell that your customer, this is what I collect, this is why I collect it, and here is your option to opt out, that earns something that your competitors can't easily copy. That's your trust. Now, when I talk about, the service market opens up and brings me to your second part of the question. Now, here we'll have consent management platforms, we will have data protection tooling audit, or even the advisory work or the fractional DPO, which are the data protection officers for companies who are too small to hire an entire ecosystem which is forming around DPDP readiness. And for service providers or consultants, the act isn't just a cost center, it's a client list today. So the regulation rewards those who are prepared, and the organization that would build robust consent or governance now will not just avoid penalties, but they'll be the ones who will be acknowledged or be recognized as global partners. And when you talk about startups or companies which are looking for investors, investors choose those who can demonstrate data discipline, which is fast becoming a condition for doing business across borders. So I feel the companies that will struggle are the ones who are asking how little they can, they can comply with, and the ones who will win will be the one who can carefully handle the data, which is now mandatory for everyone. So I feel there's a lot of job opportunities there. Does
Thank
that
you so
answer
much.
your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Just one another question related to the same. So, if someone wants to be a DPO or any other stakeholders in the chain, so what kind
Mhm.
of certification someone supposed to do? What are the validity in the law?
What other?
Any
Sorry, I
certification
lost you.
recommended? Any certification recommended so we can equip ourselves before the act get full fledged implemented?
See, the act does not specify any specific qualification how to become a DPO. Okay. It is actually mixing your right set of expertise with your credentials and credibility. So, for example, a DPO is a mandate for all your significant data fiduciaries today, meaning that the government, those are the ones who are, churning the high volume of data, and there's a lot of sensitivity or risk involved. So the DPO is the one who is responsible for the whole data protection compliance itself. Now, as a fiduciary organization, not being a significant fiduciary, I don't bear that responsibility. So the DPO's role in monitoring, advising, and escalating the compliance gaps is the one wherein crucial legal nuance is important. Now, if you have already done your LLB or if you have done your master's, right, and if you have worked in the data privacy field, so here, your technical literacy matters the most. So here, what I mean by technical literacy is that you understand how information technology, cyber security, or the data management system actually work. So you don't need to actually, have certificates or show that you understand the security with encryption or the access controls or the breach detection. But you can show that you've worked in the field. One, second, now DSCI is also there are certain programs that it is offering, which is a recognized option. So you can opt for that. IPAP is already giving credentials like CIPP, CIPM, CIPT, CIPA, CI, yeah, CIPAA is also there, right? So that you can opt for. So you can, if you want something in cross-border space, you can do that. Or if you want to package your specific experience that you already have, you can think about, you can consider of being a fractional or a virtual DPO for a mid-sized fintech or a health tech company. You can approach them, or an ed tech firm. There is also SDF registry, which is where you can go and register. MITI, the Ministry of Information and Technology, is now also shortening the significant data fiduciary compliance windows, which is from 18 months to now 12 months. So now there'll be a lot more demand for the DPOs going forward. And I feel, which means more DPO appointments for the significant data fiduciary should be in place by the late 26, which is this year, or at least early next year.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah. Any other questions?
No, ma'am.
All right. So, uh, since we did touch upon the DPO part, let me also discuss a little bit more on that as a natural extension of the shadow side section, which is the con section. So how do we pivot from problem to who solves it? Meaning we've had deepfakes, we have had data misuses, right? So how do we bring in the DPO who actually stands to guard all of this? And then there is a new kind of professional that walks onto the stage, which is cybersecurity officer, who is mostly your IT person. So think of them as people who are the guardians of law, and those who require every large data handler to keep on stuff. So these are not just technologists, these are not just the lawyers in the courtroom sense, but something in between, something that bridges the gap between the courtroom and the tech side. A person whose entire job is to ask if the company is doing something clever with your data. Should we even do that? Is it allowed? And that, keeps the futuristic anxieties to a concrete answer, which I feel is much required in today's time. um Apart from this, I just 1 minute, I have had this. So again, coming back to you know the legal and the regulatory frontier. Now, I'm not sure if you have worked upon the EU AI Act, which is the most comprehensive attempt to regulate AI by this year. And when we talk about DPDP, how is it different? Um, how many of you all have actually worked on the EU side ever, like even if it is a small segment or a small fraction of the work? You can just raise your hand by clicking on raise hand on your screen. Okay, I see Ria. All right, Ria, would you like to unmute yourself and just explain what have you done, basically? Like, just a simple, without breaching the confidentiality. Are you asking a question or have you worked on it? Okay, I see a question in the chat box, which is how a law student can balance AI and the knowledge which they have. Now, while this is a good question, but it's slightly a broad one. See, if the AI can research, it can summarize and draft. What's the point of building me building all of that knowledge myself, whether I'm a student or a lawyer? Because the answership, the answer of that relationship isn't between the two. It's a balance to strike. So it's a found you are a human, then you are using a tool. If you can't balance a hammer against the knowledge of a carpentry, one is useless without the other. So while AI is extraordinary, and there is at a sorry, it's extraordinary at a mechanical layer of legal work, but where you can pull up cases, you can summarize a long judgment, you can draft a first cut of clause, but every of these output needs someone to look at it, someone to say that whether it is right or wrong, whether the clause is still good law or not, whether the summary missed the ratio decidendi, whether the clause actually protects the client. And that knowing comes from from the human. It doesn't come from the machine. It comes from years of spending learning that experience, spending time reading, arguing, and often being corrected and being wrong in many rooms. So while AI will handle the work at the preliminary level, your knowledge will do the judging. So if you skip the second part where your knowledge comes into, you actually become someone who can produce legal sound text without knowing whether it is true or not. And that in law is very, very dangerous. So the hallucination problem is your job security. AI will invent something very confidently as case citation that doesn't exist. And there have been very real sanctions in real courts against lawyers who have filed AI generated fake cases. Last year, three US based attorneys were their licenses were suspended. So the only defense against that is a person who knows the law well and is able to catch the lie and say that okay, this is garbage. This is, this is not reliable. So let the use AI to, learn, to deepen your learning, but do not just blindly depend on it. Now, again, if we go back to, the regulatory and the legal frontier, I hope that answers your question. Uh, See, today you have seen technology can do everything. It can do the good and also the frightening part of it. So when it comes to the frightening part of it, let's understand who is making the rules, who are the rule makers, and who will, if we break the rules, then when am I? Who will catch me? So the law will almost trail technology. It's like, it's like a security, which is, staying put and keeping a tab on you. So if I compare Europe with India, now European Union passed something called an EUA Act, which is like I mentioned before, it's a very comprehensive attempt to regulate artificial intelligence, which is across the board. Now, the clever thing about the act is how it regulates it. So it doesn't treat that AI, all AIs are same. It sorts AI by risk. It is saying high risk, medium risk, right? And then there is something which is the harmless stuff, like a spam filter, or let's say a product recommendation. Hello.
Please unmute your mic.
All right. Uh, so like a spam filter, if you have seen, or you would have noticed, sometimes there is a product recommendation when you are searching for something on, let's say, on Instagram, and then there is something you start seeing everywhere, whether it's your LinkedIn, whether it's your WhatsApp or your Facebook. So in the middle of things, this is, while it is harmless, it does need a bit of care and transparency. So you should at least know that you are talking to a machine, not a person. Let's say there is a bot called Amber, and I want to get a loan or a job, or I want to understand, I want to understand the rules and the laws around it, and I start talking to Amber. I should be told who Amber is, whether it is a machine or a person. And then there are heavy obligations, and sometimes there is a outright ban if you breach any norm constantly. So again, coming back to, it's like building codes, uh but with, by the same, there cannot be same rules which will apply for let's say a garden to vis-a-vis a 40-story tower. So the taller your tower is, the riskier the structure is, the stricter the inspection would be. And that's the European law for you in simple language. So it protects people first, and then it makes the technology saying that if you comply with one, two, three thing, if you prove that you are a good tool and you can be reliable, then you earn your freedom. And because Europe moved first, the rest of the world is now reading over the shoulder and deciding how much of their law to be borrowed. Now, India is also writing its own, story when it comes to AI Act. Now, we haven't dropped one like a giant AI law from the sky. Our scope is to assemble like a jigsaw, which is piece by piece. So at one place we have the DPDP Act, which is our biggest privacy law, which governs how anyone who is handling your personal data has to behave. And then around it sits your evolving IT rules, which deals with things like deepfakes or online intermediaries. And underneath all of this, it runs a a very conscious. There is a conscious choice of the customer, and that that's where it creates the most tension for every government in the world. How do you regulate it? And how do you regulate it and also ensure that the harm is lesser, it is mitigated. Because if you regulate too little and you let the harm run wild, the scams, the deepfakes, or the misuse, that becomes a major offense. But if you regulate too much and too early into a tool, then you risk strangling the very innovation that could lift millions of people up. And for a young country like ours, where there is a booming tech sector, billion of people coming in online, and second risk is just as real as the first one. So India has chosen very deliberately to lean in pro innovation. So the instinct isn't to ban technology before anything actually bad happens. So it lets the technology grow, but as soon as they see that something is seeming off, they closely monitor it, then they intervene, and if there is real harm, then they end all of this. So here again, now reasonable people would disagree about whether it is wisdom or whether it's gamble. But you know, as if you look at the EU Act again, so India may seem too permissive. India would say that European Union is being heavy-handed too soon. And honestly, I feel that we won't know who's right for another a decade or so unless we have certain precedents. So we are all running in some sort of an experiment, of course, in real time with no control group. So that's what makes this moment so, genuinely fascinating to be alive for. And I again, uh, I feel that brings us to the end of our session. But I would say that while as Indians we are writing different stories, while there is not a single giant law, and there are different laws which are very deliberate pro innovation tilt. uh, do read about it. I'm sure uh, you know if the government regulates too much or too soon, we'll end up strangling a lot of opportunities that could lift millions. So let's not pour concrete over the field before anything's had a chance to bloom. Any question, anything, happy to take it at this point.
If any participant want to ask any question, please ask. You can type in the chat box or you can unmute yourself and can ask directly from the speaker. We will wait for 1 or 2 minutes for the question and answer session. Otherwise, we will end the session.
If you have any question, please feel free to ask. And also, you can definitely get in touch with me through Lordins or through LinkedIn. My LinkedIn, you can always reach out, and you know, you can always pick up my brain. That sense. Any question, anybody? Either the session has been too complicated that no one has understood, or everybody already knows, the specifics of AI Act. So,
There is one question in the chat box. Can you tell us about growing career options in 2026?
with respect to AI, is this?
I guess so.
Uh, I feel like I mentioned, one is the DPO bit of it, um, which is upcoming. Okay. Then, of course, there'll be tech lawyers as well, which are very specific, working on tech space. Now, for somebody like me, when I was in law school, there I was basically handed two doors. So door one is litigation, door two is corporate law, and that was the whole map. So if you didn't want either one, you were on your own. In 2026, that map has been redrawn, meaning you have data privacy, which is your biggest, option, and it is not upcoming anymore. It's already here. So you can get into every serious company which rethinks how it is handling its data. There are data privacy specific lawyer rules as well, which is more insignificant companies, wherein a mid-sized fintech or a health tech, edtech firms are now looking for specific privacy expertise. Second is tech and AI law, where AI has become a tool as a mainstream. So somebody again has to have answer the hard questions like who owns the AI generated work, where does the liability sits when an algorithm causes harm, or where you regulate a deepfake. So India is positioning to be one of the largest AI driven economies on earth, and which means that there'll be a lot of demand for high growth specialization rather than a niche curiosity. And then you have options like legal operations and legal tech. Now, legal operations is very different from being a lawyer. Here, you should know the business of running legal work efficiently with inside a large organization, and alongside that, it's there's technology consulting firms, helping firms who are actually using the AI tool to transform the profession. So, if you are a rare law student who is also comfortable with technology, you are a unicorn, and I'm sure there are companies looking for you. Next bit of it will be ESG. Um, Next bit of it will be ESG and the regulatory compliance. Now, here there is a mandatory sustainability disclosures, and there is a ever thickening web of regulation, which means that companies will now need ESG compliance advisors. You will have regulatory affair managers. Uh, while it might sound a little bit boring or monotonous, but it does pay very well. Today only I saw somewhere where somebody is hiring an environment lawyer, and the pay is around 1 CR for I think 15 to 16 years of experience. Uh, Again, you can also look at public sectors. For example, you can look at SEBI, you can look at RBI, you can look at IRDAI or CCI, which are now offering premium salaries, which are, the where the real intellectual heft is there and the chance to shape the rules rather than just following them. So that's also serious career. And then if you're, uh, I'm sure some of you all would be dreading the classic litigation start, wherein there are long years and very little money. But there is now a legitimate alternative. So you can become an alternative legal service provider, wherein you can be provide your service to credible employers where they are offering very structured roles, or there is any technology driven work. So you can have your predictable hours, and you can also earn a good amount of money. So here in 26, I don't think it's just about the opportunity, is that the opportunity exists, but it is not evenly distributed. So while some of the lawyers or the law students keep sending out CVs and they hear nothing back, others are thriving at the same age at corporate firms, tech companies, or regulatory roles. So this is, again, this is the difference that is going to exist, because it's not about raw intelligence. It's about you preparing for it, you positioning yourself better for it, and the formula on which side of you land will also depend on what practical skills you have in what area of law, technology, or compliance. So if you pick up your niche early rather than getting replaced later in your career, that's the whole game. I hope I answered your question. Anything else that you have?
There is one more question from Prachi. What is the one skill professionals need to adapt to this AI revolution?
I think I did answer that, right? But anyway, I feel, you know, um, as an AI professional, the most important thing is okay, before I answer that, let's just, let me say a lot of us feel that uh, the must have skill is prompting, meaning that I need to learn how to talk to a machine. But prompting is right now the skill. It will be obsolete the moment these models get good enough to understand anybody's sloppy instructions, which is now also happening, right? So what never goes obsolete is the human who can look at a confident, fluent, professional sounding AI and say, hey, that's wrong. Because think about what AI does well and badly. It is brilliant at producing things that sounds authoritative, it sounds perfect, but it does also hallucinate. It provides miscalculates at times, and it states falsehood, with total serenity. So the bottleneck in every AI workflow is no longer generating new work; it is about verifying it. And verification is a pure judgment. It's a domain knowledge plus the discernment to catch what's off. And that's the inversion of the whole revolution. We used to, initially pay people to produce, write the memo, build the model, or draft the contract. Now the machine produces the first draft in seconds, right? And I want a lawyer now where a person who can actually evaluate my draft, who can say, out of these 10 options, which one is my right one? And what did I miss in here? So, the drudgery is automated. The judgment is never automated. So if I had to compress in one line, AI turns everyone into an editor so that the skill matters is the editorial judgment, the taste to know what is good from what is bad, and the knowledge to prove it. So the person who treats AI output as an answer gets replaced, but a person who treats it as a draft to be judged, that person will be irreplaceable. Does that answer your question? Are there any more questions, Varun, or can we end the
No, there
session
is
now?
no more question. Yes, we can end the session. Thank you for the wonderful session. E-certificates to all the participants will be provided within 24 hours, and feedback form will be shared with you. Please drop your feedbacks regarding the session. Thank you to all the participants for joining in the session, and thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. We will end the session now. Have a nice day ahead to all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. And thank you, Varun, for having me here. Thank you.